Well, it leaked that there's $60 billion that's going to be the deficit. And it was supposed to be, the target was $40 billion, which is still too darn high, but $60 billion is a lot higher, right? And so under questioning about that fact, Chrystia Freeland will not answer the question. She just won't answer the question. She dodges around it, makes grand statements, does all sorts of things, anything at all to not actually answer the question, which is, I mean, pretty much on brand for the Liberals, right? The Liberal tap dance on steroids. It's almost at the level of Neo dodging bullets in the Matrix, right? She does not want to answer the question. And I'll show you the video. We'll watch it together. The Penny verdict in the United States, there was a man who held another man in a chokehold. The first man who held the man was a Marine, and the other guy was a mentally unwell person who was assaulting people on the subway. His name was, the person who was holding him, name was Penny, and his trial finished yesterday with a not guilty verdict, which was kind of unexpected. A lot of people thought he was going to do jail time. He was charged with murder and then manslaughter, and both charges not guilty. So that's, I mean, very, very interesting. Time for people to start standing up for each other on the subway again or something, right? But as with everything, there's more to it than that, and I will show you the more to it. There are people calling for, there's some people saying that Penny lynched this guy on the subway. There are all sorts of mad takes about this whole thing, so I'll show you some of that. Justin Trudeau wants to punch back on the US and on Trump on the tariffs. And he has a whole long list of reasons why he thinks this is going to work. And fundamentally, Canada is not hearing the concerns that the United States is putting forward via the president's direct conversation with Justin Trudeau. The president, or President-elect Trump, was very clear that he wanted the drugs to stop and the illegals to stop. And in order to do that, that would probably help Canada too, to not have as many illegals in Canada, to not have as many drug labs and or drugs trafficking through Canada. All of that would be helpful for Canada, right? Like, it would be a good thing. Instead of hearing the concern expressed by the coming in leader of the United States, Justin Trudeau hears threats, I guess, and tariffs, et cetera, and thinks to himself, yeah, we can beat the United States in this trade war. And I think, what an idiot. Holy smoke, what an idiot. There's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Trump is trolling Trudeau as well. That was the other thing. And we'll look at that right away as well. That's where we're going to get started. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. Here is Justin Trudeau talking about how, yeah, we're gonna hit back. We're gonna probably hit back. And last time this happened with tariffs, hitting back was the right move. And I think that this time is different than last time. And Justin Trudeau is not great at reading the room. He's polling at what, 19 or something like that, 19 to 21. And he's not even polling enough to make opposition. So here we go. Here's Justin Trudeau talking about strongmanning against Donald Trump. Here we go.
President-elect Trump got elected on a commitment to make life better and more affordable for Americans. And I think people south of the border are beginning to wake up to the reality that tariffs on everything from Canada would make life a lot more expensive for Americans. So that's part of the argument. The other part is we will, of course, as we did 8 years ago, respond to unfair tariffs in a number of ways. And we're still looking at the right ways to respond. But our responses to the unfair steel and aluminum tariffs were what ended up lifting those tariffs last time. It wasn't that Americans were paying more for their steel and aluminum, although that was annoying to some people in the States. It was the fact that we put tariffs on bourbon and Harley Davidsons and playing cards and Heinz ketchup and cherries and a number of other things that were very carefully targeted because they were politically impactful to the president's party and colleagues, was how we were able to punch back in a way that was actually felt by Americans.
So do you want to punch back and say, yeah, we want to keep our borders open, and also we want to continue sending fentanyl and illegals through your border, and we're going to charge you more for Heinz ketchup? Didn't the Heinz plant move to the United States? They moved out of, I think it was Leamington, Ontario, and now French's basically bought up Leamington, Ontario. And we had a bottle of French's, and I think it went bad, or it tasted almost like metallic. There was a weird taste to the ketchup. So we stopped eating it right away. I was like, I'm not going to eat this ketchup, so nobody else should eat this ketchup. At the beginning of what he was saying, Donald Trump was elected to make things more livable, cost-effective for Americans. And if he continues, their Heinz ketchup is going to be through the roof. Unbelievable. People will be having to take out loans to get ketchup, okay? Or here's, just a crazy alternative. Donald Trump could call up other ketchup manufacturers who are already in the United States, or people who are on the cusp, like they own tomato farms or something like that. And he could call them up and say, hey, do you want a huge contract and maybe some government money to spin up a ketchup store or ketchup making factory? Yeah, great. We'll make that happen. And then fill that gap right away with American jobs instead of Canadian jobs. And then who gets hurt? The people who make the ketchup in Canada that can't export to the United States anymore because of the tariffs, the punching back tariffs that Justin Trudeau is putting in place. It feels like he's playing checkers here when he should be playing chess. I'm an idiot in my garage, and I can see this. It seems like, and Donald Trump is wanting to onshore American jobs. He's giving Canada a chance. Like, hey guys, stop sending drugs and illegal citizens through that really leaky, open, wide border that we've got up in the north there, and things can stay status quo. But if not, we're gonna kind of destroy your economy. But hey, heads up, right? Like, I don't know how you take that and think to yourself, I should punch back against this. It seems like a friendly, thing to do to your good trading partner and friend of the North, right? And instead of responding in kind and actually dealing with the problems highlighted by the president-elect, Justin Trudeau is looking at making ketchup the thing he really relies on to solve this problem. Seems crazy to me. BRICS News is highlighting this Donald Trump post. It was a pleasure to have dinner the other night with Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada. I look forward to seeing the governor again soon so we may continue our in-depth talks on tariffs and trade, the results of which will be truly spectacular for all. Donald Trump. Ha! So that's pretty funny. Troll master in chief trolling the governor of our great state. Wah, wah. Hold on, I've got the sound. Right? So we've got economic news to talk about, and this is really kind of the real start of the show. The Justin Trudeau stuff, I'm sorry that we had to spend so much time there, but he's an idiot, and we have to understand just how vulnerable we are, meaning like open to attack we are, when our leader's Justin Trudeau, he assesses the situation as he's just assessed it, and Donald Trump is killing himself laughing and trolling him. Right? Like, okay, so you're not going to solve the problem, Governor? Right, gotcha. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So we have to talk about that. But this economic news is very, very important. And Chrystia Freeland not answering the question could have been the lead story, right? Could have been easy. Pierre Poilievre says, dead last, the worst per person income growth in the G7 after 9 years of Jagmeet Singh and Justin. Canada's dead last. Yikes, right? USA is way up there. Italy, Japan. Great Britain's even doing fine. France and Canada. Germany, right? Everybody and their dog is ahead of Canada. And like, if you read the newspapers, it doesn't seem like France and Germany are doing so well. So it seems weird. Paul says a sharp rise in the unemployment rate and tepid private sector demand have economists betting the Bank of Canada will deliver a second straight half-point rate cut on Wednesday. 11 out of 15 economists surveyed by the Wall Street Journal lean towards a 50 basis point cut. So that's bad because it doesn't seem like the United States is doing that. We're not following the United States cuts, and when that happens, our dollar loses value. And again, I'm not a finance guy, but like, that's not good. If we're being forced to drop our rate while the U.S. doesn't have to drop their rate, and yeah, all of the financial fallout negative for us, it seems. Here's Jazraj, and he says, breaking news. He's an MP. Conservatives forced an emergency meeting today to call Freeland to Finance Committee for the first time in 7 months. The Liberal chair is covering for Freeland by keeping the meeting in secret. Liberals are covering up the truth about their spending deficits and damage to the economy. Hold the meeting in public, call Freeland to appear. So... do you think? I don't think so. The meeting is supposed to take place 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. today, December 10th, and I'm not sure. In fact, I'm pretty confident that we're not going to get to the bottom of this. Do you think there'll be an election before we get to the bottom of this? It'll be interesting to see when the Conservatives take over, if they open up the books, how much they open up the books, how much they tell us. I remember when, who was it? Ernie Eves took over from Dalton McGuinty. No, it was Ernie Eves from Harris, and then Dalton McGuinty took over, and he said Ernie Eves did all these terrible things, and you wouldn't believe it. And I was like, I'll believe it. Like, release the information. And the information that we got was subpar at best. And I was too young to really understand that I should dig into this and really like demand accountability, etc. But the excuse used and the evidence to support the excuse used, it was mostly talking points and not a lot of meat, in my opinion. And they blame the Conservatives for mismanaging the books and all sorts of other stuff. But that goes back and forth all the time anyway. It's still very concerning. I'll be interested to see what these Conservatives do. Here is Rick, and he's an MP. He says, breaking news, media are reporting Freeland's deficit could be $60 billion this year. She promised Parliament it wouldn't be a penny over $40 billion. Asked repeatedly if the deficit would be $60 billion, she refused to answer. If the answer was no, she would have said so. So this is that Matrix-like bullet dodging liberal tap dance that we've been having to endure for the last few years. Here's Chrystia Freeland and this exchange.
Officials have leaked to the media that the deficit will be $60 billion or more. So is it going to be that, higher, or lower?
Mr. Perkins, because a Conservative filibuster has blocked the work of our Parliament.
Minister, the only filibuster is your unwillingness to produce the documents.
No,
but I would ask you a simple question. Is the deficit going to be higher or lower than the $60 billion your officials have leaked to the media?
I think that it is very important not to cast any doubt on Canada's financial credibility. So I want to take this opportunity to be very clear that Canada's fiscal position is strong and sustainable and continues,
yes or no? It's a simple question. Why won't you answer whether or not it'll be above or below 60 billion? Did you officials?
The strongest in the G7 with the worst growth. The strongest in the G7 with the worst growth, Minister? Are you sure? Come on, Minister. Let's be serious, Minister. Here is, this gentleman is talking about how in 2022, I think he says, there was a big government leak. And he says, this is Wiretap Media, the Trudeau government leaked private banking data of thousands of Canadians to the private sector during the Emergencies Act. And now they're refusing to disclose who they leaked the information to. Now, there's a couple of hops to the leaks. The first hop is to stakeholders, for example, like H&R Block. Okay. But then there were places, and he highlights them in the clip I'm going to show you, that then retransmitted that information. And we have no idea where that information was retransmitted to. So there was this first phase leak and then a second phase leak. And we don't know anything about the second phase leak, and nobody wants to investigate it. And that's what this is about. So it's interesting. Financial data of Canadians leaked twice, and we don't have any information about that. Next question. Weird, right? Super duper weird. Here we go.
I think it's something
that's good. And why I'm getting at this is because the government claims that it had sent these very private details, including previous convictions, license plate numbers, to 50 individuals, however, 50 organizations. However, a couple of those organizations, in particular the Securities Commission of Ontario, the Mutual Fund Dealers Association, then went on and sent that information to upwards of thousands of individuals, but we actually don't even know how far and wide that information went. So just trying to understand, for me, it would make sense that we know the processes that led and how far and wide, and I just wanted your opinion on whether you think the public has a right to know and whether Parliament has a right to know.
I think it's important to know how far does the breach go. So how widely was this information shared? Was it appropriately done? Were there some valid reasons? Was there some valid contractual or other protections? And so those are the things that we're going to be looking at in our investigation.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
So how far and wide does it go? And is it a satisfactory answer? A little less than satisfactory, if you ask me, really. Michael Barrett says, jaw-dropping. The Trudeau's government repeatedly ignored warnings about contracting fraud. This after Liberals were caught fundraising on fraudulent Indigenous identity. Turns out they're more worried about protecting a Liberal fraudster than protecting Canadians from fraudsters. Well, see, he's a Liberal fraudster. So if the Liberal fraudster goes down, well, it's like cockroaches. If you see one, it's already too late. They're everywhere, right? Like, it's like, oh no, they're all here now. Or ants, same thing. It's a 10-minute video. I don't have a clip to show you. Apologies. I didn't realize it was a 10-minute video, and then I haven't had time to watch it. And I'm busy today, so sorry about that. But link is in the description if you want to watch it for a gotcha. But fundamentally, this is a lot of shutting down committees, non-answers, et cetera, et cetera. And I've got other videos to show you. Kelly says, this is another MP, day 2 of public accounts investigation into the CEBA fraud, no answers. And immediately after my first round here, so after the first 6 minutes, the Liberals and the NDP MPs shut it down. What are the Liberals hiding? And why is the NDP helping cover it up? Because they're both neck deep in it. They're both as guilty as the other party. That's why. Holy smoke. Here is Elon Musk. He says, this is mind-blowing. Fundamentally, he's talking about the amount of money wasted by the White House, and I'm saying, and the federal government in the United States, and I'm saying that we do exactly the same thing in Canada. All of the federal government, all the amount of waste is absolutely mind-blowing. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, I could barely believe it. And I think we've barely scratched the surface. But here's what's going on in the United States. What GAO found in June 2019, GAO identified 10 critical federal IT legacy systems that are outdated or obsolete. They were in most need of modernization. These legacy systems provide vital support to agency missions. According to the agencies, the legacy systems range from about 8 to 51 years old and collectively cost about $337 million annually to operate and maintain. Several of the systems use older languages, such as COBOL. Have you heard about this? I've heard other people talking about learning COBOL just to get really specialized jobs, and it's not that hard to learn either. GAO has previously reported that reliance on such languages has risks, such as a rise in procurement and operating costs, and a decrease in the availability of individuals with proper skill sets. Sorry, this is the finance part. The White House, we're unable to track $6.2 billion sent to Ukraine. California says we're unable to track $24 billion spent to combat homelessness. The Pentagon is unable to track $2.3 trillion of military spending. The U.S. Treasury, we're unable to track $5 trillion of pandemic spending. The IRS, we know you sent $601.57 to your friend. You better report it or you're going to jail. There's a lot of material for Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to use there. And this maps to Canada. Sorry, this tweet really didn't have anything to do with it. I apologize. But this part does. It maps to Canada in that we are being watched very closely. There are people who are being punished for donating to the Freedom Convoy, and the Freedom Convoy, the list of donators, the list of people who donated to the Freedom Convoy was illegally hacked from Give, Send, Go. That illegally hacked list was sent to the OPP. The OPP then forwarded it to all the police stations in, I think Canada probably, but certainly Ontario. And people have been charged with conduct unbecoming. People are fighting it in court currently. There's all sorts of issues with regards to like how tightly people are watched, where they spend their money, and the government is just making it rain in Ukraine, making it rain in Israel, making it rain in Palestine, weirdly, just sending money everywhere. And like, oh, if you're Canadian, make sure you get a tent. And don't put it too close to City Hall. That's illegal, right? Don't make the city look bad or anything like that, right? Here's your tiny home, right? The mayor the other day of my town was touting how nice tiny homes were. And again, my jaw is on the floor. I can't believe that these hypocritical people could take over leadership of a place in like 2015, 2014, 2015, whenever they've taken leadership, and watch the standard of living drop so much and celebrate it. What is wrong with them? Do they not have sense? Like, they're responsible, so they have to be happy about it, I guess. Holly Doan says GST holiday will cost 70% more than claimed by Finance Canada. Minister Freeland says the budget office. The PBO says Freeland failed to account for mandatory compensation owed provinces that harmonized sales tax with the GST. Oh, man. So, I mean, that's pretty funny. And the new Liberal premier of New Brunswick asked her about it like the second day, and this seemed to not be a slam dunk. Like, you've already made the agreement, like, where's the money, yo? And whoops, I guess that changes the math on this, eh? So our winning government running our finances, yikes, right? Like, we're in trouble. We're in danger here, right? Dan Kelly says, to the Liberal MP who slammed those suggesting that the GST-HST holiday was complicated, here's the guidance from the Canada Revenue Agency on gift baskets that contain both taxable and non-taxable items. When 90% or more of the value of the gift basket is for components that would be zero rated if supplied by themselves, for example, fruits, the tax status of the supply is zero rated. Conversely, when the value of the component parts, each of which is taxable, exceeds 10% of the total value of the supply of the gift basket is taxable. during the eligible period. The rule will continue to apply if 90% or more of the value of the gift basket is zero rated. The tax status of the supply is zero rated during the eligible period. The zero rated category for the purpose of the calculation during the eligible period will include qualifying goods such as food, non-alcoholic beverages, and or eligible beverages. Therefore, it may be that more gift baskets would qualify for zero-rated treatment, as more of the components would be zero-rated during the eligible period. An MP said in the House that the holiday was no big administrative challenge, as simple as pressing a button on a smartphone, and that is not true at all. CFIB says Dan Kelly is fielding hundreds of questions from confused small business owners, trying their best to sort out every product prior to Saturday's implementation. Many don't have a clear answer, as we've temporarily created new tax categories that have never existed before. Yeah, so, I mean, it's pretty terrible. To be fair to the CRA, they're doing a great job in answering CFIB's questions, but it will be impossible to do this for every product sold in the country within the time frame allowed. I will lose it if I start seeing posts slamming small businesses for getting this wrong on Saturday morning, or criticizing the 19-year-old PT clerk for not being an instant tax expert. To keep up with CFIB's advice and tools as they come in, visit their website. So I don't know how useful the CFIB is. They went along with closing down the economy, and they asked for handouts and subsidies. So where really they should have been advocating to open all businesses and not jail healthy people in their homes. Regardless, Dan Albus says, hey, National Post, by your own reporting, this whole cleared it with the ethics commissioner thing that Minister Sajjan's office is peddling is not a thing. So Minister Sajjan, this is more taxpayer misappropriation of money. Sajjan went to the Taylor Swift concert on the taxpayer dime, and he said, no, don't worry. I called the ethics commissioner beforehand, and I agreed to pay $1,500 into a food bank to get access to these tickets. So that seems like weird, right? It's a weird thing to do. But also, the National Post says they can't do that. National Post reporting Von Finkenstein, who was the ethics commissioner interim after I think it was Dion left. Anyways, he said he doesn't, quote, pre-clear trips. He simply gives MPs advice on how to avoid ethical issues when they travel. He was asked by Conservatives if it was appropriate for the Prime Minister to have mischaracterized their interaction. I'm not responsible for the spokesman of the Prime Minister and the way he characterized our interaction. I can only tell you what's happened, he said. And here's National Post reporting on Sajjan and the Taylor Swift tickets. Global News first reported that Sajjan would be attending the concert with his daughter on the taxpayer dime as a guest of a provincial crown corporation that owns BC Place. A spokeswoman for Sajjan said last week that the minister received the clearance from the ethics commissioner and would donate $1,500 to the Greater Vancouver Food Bank as part of a fundraising effort tied to the event. Food banks, eh? Donating to food banks to feed who? International students? Right? Refugees, non-citizens, illegals. So thanks, but no thanks. Thanks for nothing. Right? Bernie says, energy, this is the UK's largest solar factory. We are spending a lot of money on this net zero green slush fund, all of the rest of it. It's not sustainable. And it doesn't make any rational sense. A storm came and destroyed the solar farm, like very, very quickly. And they're naming all these storms in the UK now, which is ridiculous too. But Bernie says this is the UK's largest solar factory, now significantly damaged by a storm, leaving thousands of homes in Wales without power. If storms are to become more and more frequent and severe, then how can they claim solar is secure or even viable? Awkward. Clown world, right? Totally is. So it's not a viable solution. It's not sustainable because it's going to cost way too much money. Every time a storm blows through, you've got to replace all the solar panels until next time. Unbelievable. But nobody seems to be worried about it at all. Sorry, I had to reorder the last half of the show. We'll do our quick grab bag of governance today. The financial stuff is kind of the grab bag of governance, but Chrystia Freeland not answering the question, it really takes the cake on that one. Gov.exe says, NDP MP Heather McPherson says protests that make people feel unsafe are not the same thing as being unsafe. And protests involving singing and chanting from seniors and children are peaceful. This is the same MP that said Ottawa was under siege during the Freedom Convoy. So these people lie at the drop of a hat, and they only see what they want to see. And listen to this. Here we go.
Whether a protest makes members uncomfortable is not the same as impeding their work. The member for Battleford Lloydminster said she felt unsafe. But feeling unsafe is not the same as being unsafe. What I saw was a peaceful protest with singing, with chanting in Hebrew, with seniors and young people united together. I
wonder what the difference is. I can't put my finger on what the difference might be. Sorry, she's got another 20 odd seconds. Should we listen to the rest of it? I couldn't, based on the first little bit that you heard, what do you think the difference is about why she sees this protest one way and the Freedom Convoy a different way? I don't think we need to listen to it anymore. I think I've got it. Moving on. True North says, I just don't want to listen to any more of it. True North says, Prime Minister Trudeau says the carbon tax is the most successful plan to fight climate change, while accusing the Conservatives of not having a plan and mocking those who criticize the law. Now, apologies, but I feel like we've done penance enough, and we don't need to listen to Justin Trudeau again. And him, just even watching him sit on this chair is enough for me. That's enough. I don't think that taxing the inputs is a good thing ever. It harms the economy. It harms your citizens. What you should be doing is empowering your citizens. If you care about your citizens at all, you should be empowering them to make the most out of themselves. And the way you do that is you make housing as cheap as possible, energy inputs as cheap as possible, food as cheap as possible, and then people can make unbelievably successful businesses, right? Like you can have discount steak stores. You can have discount restaurants that sell steak. You know what I'm saying? And then you can have high-end places. And then the steak from the discount place and the steak from the high-end place, both would be high-quality steaks, but the food's cheap. And so the rancher makes lots and lots of steaks, has excess, can sell to the cheap guy and the expensive guy. The rancher makes money. The cheap guy's restaurant makes money. The expensive guy restaurant makes money. Everybody's making money. Energy's cheap. People are making money hand over fist. They need more waiters and waitresses. They need more chefs. They need more sous chefs. The people out in the oil patch are being fed great steaks because the energy's cheap and so on and so forth. They have big families because there's food so plentiful and cheap and so on and so forth. That's how you do it. You don't punish the people who work with higher taxes in order to redistribute that wealth to lazy, bump on a log people who refuse to work. That is a recipe for, well, look at Canada 2024. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful